Hey everyone, Ishmael Collier here, is your realtor from eXp Realty. How are you? How is everything going? Or have you been enjoying the weather? I hope you and your family have been staying safe and well. So number one, apologies for not being consistent with these Monday videos over the last few weeks. I've been super crazy busy with a whole bunch of buyers looking to purchase a property. The market is super crazy right now and very active. A whole bunch of buyers in the market and just not enough properties. And properties are going into accepted offer contracts within a number of days. So it is just very active right now. There's just not enough houses in the market. Today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a snapshot of the system that we use to run a search for you for properties and then email those properties out to you. And what I want to stress today is I want to show you the effect of criteria that have the effect that criteria has on your search and on your results. And what I want to impart on you is to be flexible with your search. All right, so without wasting any more time, let's go ahead and let me share my screen with you, and so let's get started. All right, so you should be able to see my screen at this point. This is what's called the multiple listing service. I subscribe to multiple listing service through One Key MLS in New York. So this is my matrix system, this is my MLS system, and I'm going to do a search that I would do for you when you call me. So let's imagine we have a buyer that is looking for a house in Yonkers for $500,000. We're going to begin by going to single family and search for a house. The first thing that we're going to apply is the price, 500. Thousands, the zeros for the thousands has already been applied there for me, and I'm going to put a minus signs. That means everything below $500,000. Next, we're going to apply the bedroom requirements. So let's imagine my buyer is looking for 3 or more bedrooms. All right, next, let's assume that my buyer is looking for 2 or more bathrooms. So we're going to say 3+ for the bedrooms and 2+ for the bathrooms. Now let's go ahead and apply the city of Yonkers. Let's also assume that our buyer is looking for a house with parking. There's a whole lot of choices when it comes to parking, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the ones we don't want. So no garage, no parking, none, and street parking. Those are the 4 things that my buyer certainly doesn't want. So I selected those, and I selected the button for not. Next, let's assume that our buyer is looking for a house with a basement. So I'm going to, again, there are lots of choices, finished, unfinished, partially finished, lots of choices. I like to keep the choices open. Buyer can always finish the unfinished basement or partially finished basement and so forth. So let's eliminate houses without any sort of basements, right? So that means crawl basement and none basement. And again, we're going to select the radio button for not. If you had been, I didn't mention it to you, but as we were entering our criteria, these results were being updated live. So now that we have implemented all of the criteria that we have implemented so far, that means in Yonkers, under 500,000, 3 or more bedrooms, 2 or more bathrooms, and then house with parking and house with basement. I have not even applied a tax amount, but let's assume that the lender has said no more than $10,000 in taxes. So I've applied 10,000 and then minus sign for taxes. That means a house with no more than $10,000 in taxes, right? Now we're left with 5 results. That's it. In all of Yonkers, with the given criteria, this buyer, let's say Jane and Joe, are only left with 5 houses. And we don't even know if those 5 houses are even fully available. Let's go ahead and take a look at those 5 houses. Go to results. We click on the first one. All right. 3 bedroom, obviously, they're all going to be 3 bedroom, 2 bath houses. And normally, if it has an accepted offer and whatnot, it'll be shown to us in the back end behind doors, agent remarks, where public cannot see it. But here they've actually put it under the public remarks, so you could actually see it in public remarks. So accepted offer 820. That means this house is an accepted offer. They may still be showing, they may not, but in any case, out of 5 houses, 1 is out. All right, next we have this house. It doesn't say accepted offer, so this house is fully available. Let's go ahead and look at the next house. Okay, this one says handyman special. All right, so 10 Mansion Street, 429, no pictures, and then this is a handyman special. That means it needs work. All right, so now out of 5 houses, 1 was already out because of accepted offer, 1 is out because it's a handyman special. Let's go to the next one. This is 382 400, 154 Burhans Avenue. This one, I've looked at it before. I know it needs work. It may say something here in the comments, but it certainly needs some work. Let's go ahead and scroll through some of the pictures to determine that. All right, so fairly okay, livable condition, may need some updating. All right, so it needs some updating, but it's a choice, it's an opportunity, no problem. So we are left with 2 available and 2 not available. Let's go to the next one, 5th one. And this one, finally, the last house, does not tell me that it has an accepted offer. It does not tell me that it needs a lot of work. Let's go ahead and take a look at the pictures. All right, again, livable condition. I'm not sure how much work you would want to put in to make it livable for you here. This doesn't look too good. You certainly would want to work on this house before you move in. All right, so now let's go ahead and look at the rows. So these are the 5 houses that we were left with when we implemented our criteria. This is a very typical buyer in the market today. 500, 550, 600, some are even lower at 450, 400. In Yonkers, under 500, with 3 bedrooms, with 2 bathrooms or more, with parking, with basement, and taxes of $10,000 or less, you only have 5 houses as of right now. And out of those 5 houses, 2 are probably not available for you. 1 has an accepted offer, and 1 is a handyman special. And the 3rd house needs some work. So now you're left with only 2 to 3 choices. Now imagine if you are a buyer that is going to implement more criteria, such as I must have a detached house. That house must not be attached with anything else. Your choices may or may not go down. In this case, the choices did not go down because Yonkers happens to have a lot of detached homes. But if you were considering, say, in the Bronx, a lot of houses are attached or at least semi-attached, your choices are going down. What about if you are looking for a certain neighborhood? Right now, we're looking at all of Yonkers, but what happens if you were considering only a certain neighborhood or only a certain zip code or 2, or only a specific school district? Again, your choices are going down. Imagine you have very specific preference for the type of home. It must be colonial, says the wife, right? Not to vilify the wife, it might be the husband. But in any case, look, as soon as we applied the colonial choice, the result went down to 1. You see what happens? So it's okay to have preferences, but what I want you to do is I want you to put your desires into 2 columns. Take a sheet of paper with you and your loved ones that you want to buy a house with, and create 1 column on the left that says must have. We must have these things. And then create another column. This is nice to have. You know, it'd be nice if we had a colonial, but it's not important. Right? It's important to know that, because then the must-haves, you shouldn't compromise. If you need 3 bedrooms, you need 3 bedrooms. If you need 2 bathrooms, you need 2 bathrooms. If you need parking and basement, you need it, sure. If your lender says house can't be more than $10,000 in taxes, well, that's a must. But then there are other things that would be nice to have, such as perhaps a fireplace or an outdoor patio or a pool or a lake view or a master bathroom or a master bedroom or a colonial, right? So whatever it is that you must have, put it in a column on the left titled must have, and whatever were nice to have, put it in a column on the right called nice to have. But know the difference, and then be willing and be ready to make sacrifices. As a first-time home buyer, I want you to take this advice to heart. Your first house is not your dream house. Your first house is not your last house. It's not your forever house. And lastly, it's not going to have everything that you want. Okay? Your first house is not going to have everything that you want. You're going to have to make a sacrifice. I guarantee you. The question is, what will you sacrifice? And the sooner you know your must-haves versus nice-to-haves, you will soon be able to make that decision. Because God forbid you go to see a great house and it has everything that you must have, but it didn't have that nice-to-have, such as master bath. Let's imagine master bath was nice to have for you, not a must, but it was nice to have. And that house that had perfectly everything that you wanted, but didn't have that master bath, and it wasn't very important to you, but because you didn't know the difference between must have and nice to have, and you skip over that house, and then you go on to look at many other houses, ultimately there might come a time where it may become so tiring and so complicated that you may actually end up settling on a house where you may end up sacrificing on a must have. You understand? You may end up buying a house that not only didn't have a master bath, but it actually had only one bath. Because you have seen so many houses and you've been priced out of the market so long, and because you've been tired and disappointed over and over, you will then be ready to make sacrifices of the things that you were not willing to sacrifice at the beginning, or shouldn't have sacrificed at the beginning, such as the must have. So keep in mind the difference between must have and nice to have, and be ready to make a sacrifice on the nice to have while staying firm on the must haves. But it is important to know not to sweat over the small things. Focus on the big picture. Does this house fit in the budget that I want? Does it fit in the price that I want to pay? Right? Does it have the taxes that I must have according to my lender? Does it have the minimum bedrooms, the bathrooms? Does it have the parking? Does it have safety and security for my kids? Right? Does it have the neighborhood that I want? Enough parking for me, the basement, and so forth. Right? Don't focus on the small things and things that could be changed. You cannot change the neighborhood. You cannot easily change the number of bedrooms and bathrooms. You cannot easily change parking situation, right? You cannot easily change the taxes on the house. So those things you cannot change. Don't, you want to focus on those. But things that can be changed, don't focus on those too much. And if they require you to make a sacrifice, make a sacrifice. For example, let's imagine you walk into a house and it's a great house. However, you don't like the floors in the kitchen, in the bedrooms, in the living room. Don't worry about those. You can easily get that taken care of. Perhaps before moving in, perhaps 6 months later after moving in, perhaps a year after moving in. But you can get that changed. You cannot change the neighborhood or the number of bedrooms easily, right, without having to go through a lengthy process and a very expensive process. But you can easily change the floors with a few $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. You can change the floors, or even less, right? You can even do it yourself. What happens if you walk into a house and everything is amazing, everything is great, right? But one of the rooms is a little bit small. Make that sacrifice, right? Don't be so stuck on that piece of detail where no, all the rooms must be this size or bigger. Well, then you're not going to find what you're looking for because you're on a budget. And then at some point, there will come a time where you'll actually have to sacrifice things that were even more important to you. I know this from over and over and over in experience. Some buyers will listen to a realtor and say, okay, let's move forward with this. This is a small sacrifice, but let's move forward. Other buyers will not sacrifice the small things, and there will come a time where they'll actually sacrifice much bigger things because now they're tired and disappointed. You understand? All right. Be flexible with your criteria. Don't have a whole laundry list of all of the must-haves. Put some of the stuff into nice to have. You can't have everything must have. unless you have a huge budget. Even then, people with a huge multi-million-dollar budget must not get everything either, right? They must also then sacrifice some stuff as well. So be ready to sacrifice, but be clear on what you must have and what is nice to have so you can make the right sacrifice and not end up making the wrong sacrifices out of desperation. All right. As you saw, we were only left with 5 houses in Yonkers under $500,000 price, 3 or more beds, 2 or more baths, parking must, basement must, and under $10,000 taxes. Now, we cannot afford to get any more specific. We cannot say it must be attached or detached. We cannot say it must be colonial. We just can't afford it because out of 5 houses, we know 2 are not even good choices for you because one has an accepted offer and one is a handyman special. So now you're only left with 3 choices. Now, when you walk into the 3 choices, you might not like the neighborhood, you might not like the layout of the house and so forth. So do you really even have 3 choices? You might have 3, you might have 2, you might have 1, you might actually have 0 choices at this point. So out of 3 choices, can you really afford to say, well, I must have a brick house? Some buyers are very adamant about brick, and I respect that, that's fine. But if you have a budget where you can afford to be picky, I understand that. But if you don't have a budget where you can afford to be that picky, I want you to buy your house. It is better for you to buy a house and make a couple of sacrifices than keep dreaming of a house that you cannot afford, and then it just becomes a dream and not a reality. The sooner you make it a reality, the sooner you start to enjoy your family in this new house with parking and barbecues and space for everyone. And then let the property values go up, let the equity and appreciation go up, and then buy your next house. Buy a second house. Don't even sell this one. Buy a second house and a third house. That's how you start to build real estate wealth in America. Right? But can you really, at this point, with 3 houses that you may or may not like in neighborhoods that you may or may not like, can you really afford to say, I must have a master bath? Let me show you. If I apply master bath, what happened to our choices? Look, the 5 houses went to 0. We didn't even have 5 houses because 2 are not available, only 3 were available. But as soon as I applied master bath, they went away. There are no houses in Yonkers in your budget, Joe and Jane, we're talking to, right? Under $500,000 with master bath as well. So be flexible. I have some buyers that are very adamant about gas boiler and gas heating and gas cooking, okay? Can you really afford to be that picky when you are left with 3 choices to begin with? Look at that. Out of 5 choices, we are left with 2. And remember, let's go ahead and take a look at these 2 because these 2 might be the ones that you were, that may not be available. Let's go ahead and take a look at a 10 mansion. This is that handyman special, I believe. So handyman special. So choice 1 is gone. And then now let's look at the other one. This one is available for the most part, as far as I can see. So out of 5 choices now, as soon as we applied an additional criteria called gas boiler, gas heating, we are left with only 1 house. Now keep in mind, you, Joe and Jane, might not like the layout of that house. You might not like the neighborhood. You might not like the condition of the house when we actually go see the house. So now you're left with 0 choices. You see what I mean? So what I want you to do, and this is the conversation that I have with my buyers all the time, is be flexible with your criteria. Don't be flexible with the things you must have. Price. Your lender has given you a budget. There's no flexibility on that. You've got to buy it under that budget, $500,000. Your lender has told you $10,000 taxes or less. You got to stick with that. You need 3 bedrooms because you've got a couple of kids. Okay, you don't want to be flexible on that. That's fine. 2 bathrooms you need. Perhaps you may need to be a little bit flexible and go with 1.5 bath, maybe 1 bath. I don't know. You've got to figure out what is an absolutely must-have that you are not going to compromise. But of course, be sure not to put everything in that column of must-have. Put some things in the nice to have. Hey, you know what? One bathroom is must, 1.5 or 2 would be nice to have, right? Driveway is a must, but a garage would be nice to have. We don't have to have a garage, but some parking is nice. Maybe the neighborhood does have a lot of parking, but the house that you now finally are left with, the choices, doesn't have parking of its own. Be flexible. The goal should be to buy a house that is safe and secure and spacious enough for your family. All the other things, fireplace, master bath, lake view, attached, detached, brick block, things like that, colonial versus bungalow versus ranch. Are they really must have? I don't know. You've got to decide that. But what you do want to do, again, for the last time, is don't put everything in the must have column. Be flexible. As flexible as you are, you will be happy. You'll buy your house. The changeable things, such as the color of the tiles, the floor, the color of the walls, maybe the bushes are a certain type, whatever it is, or the carpet in the living room you don't like, changeable things, don't sweat over changeable things. Those things can be changed. Other things that can be changed, like the size of the house, number of bedrooms, taxes, the neighborhood, whether there's parking or not, these things cannot be changed, without extensive work and money. Don't compromise on those. Compromise on the changeable things, because after you buy the house, you'll change them. Whether before you move in, 2 months later, 6 months later, you'll change them. All right, guys, that's my education for you for today. I promise to be more consistent going forward. My number is 914-215-1540, 914-215-1540. Deals are happening. Buyers are signing contracts. Two of my buyers signed contracts this past week, have two closings this week and next week. So deals are happening and buyers are buying houses, but with the right education, with the right mindset, you'll be able to make your decision. All right, 914-215-1540. If you find this video helpful at all, please like the channel, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and do comment at the bottom. Do comment and let me know what you got out of this video. And then email me, ishiorealtor@gmail.com. My website is ishiorealtor.com, where you can do all of the property searches. I'm really excited to be working with you and looking forward to helping you and your family move into your new home before the year's over. Ishio Realtor, 914-215-1540. Thank you so much for watching. Talk to you next Monday. Bye-bye.